Good day to you from the Florida Bar Conference in Orlando on the Miami Community News Network. And we're honored to have a longtime public servant here in Florida, the Miami-Dade County Public Defender, Carlos Martinez, who really your story always, I want you to relay your story to our audience about how you ended up here and such great community service, which I have such admiration and respect for in the job that you do.
So thank you for the opportunity. So I ended up as the chief public defender. I have been in the office since 1990, and I worked my way up. Initially, I started out as a legal intern, then an attorney, then in management, and then in 2008, I ran for office and I've won 5 different terms.
Those are all incredibly impressive, but you left out the gigantic part at the beginning prior to that, which really is striking a chord in my heart and anyone who hears how you got to that point.
Okay, so the point before law school.
Yes.
I came to Miami with my parents back in 1969. And I grew up in Miami, went to school in Miami, went to Miami-Dade College, then eventually ended up graduating from Florida International. But all throughout, I was actually working for Exxon Company USA. And for Exxon Company, I started out as a car wash attendant when I was 17. And then I moved my way up to managing multiple gas stations when I was 18. And then I went to law school a little bit later in 1987.
How do you think that impacts you in your job where people come to you when they've had an interaction with the law, they've been arrested, taken into custody, and they can't afford an attorney? And your life at that time period, I think most people will not set out and don't want to commit a crime, but many forced to do so for economic reasons. How do you think that impacts how you direct your staff?
My life has had a trajectory. I've been very blessed. My parents, when we first got here from Cuba, both my mother and my father worked at St. John Bosco Church. St. John Bosco Church at the time was one of the first churches in town. And in St. John Bosco Church, we would run into people who actually even had less than we had. We were not even middle class. But my parents worked very hard to make sure that we had food on the table, that we had a roof over our heads. And then when I went to work for Exxon, even though that was for a profit, when I was running gas stations, I worked in different areas of Miami. I worked in Opelika, I worked in North Miami, I worked down in South Dade, up by the zoo. I worked in Canville Lakes. So I worked all over Miami. So I was able to see different sides of Miami-Dade County that most people don't get to see. So growing up, even in my teens, even in my early 20s, I got to see a lot of folks, working people. And people needed gasoline. People needed to get their cars fixed. So the part of that is public service. Now I've been doing public service since I became a lawyer, and it's not for pay. It's, in terms of people having to pay me for the work that I do. But to me, it all relates to being able to help the public in their time of need, whether it's a car broken down or whether it's their life that was broken down as a result of one of those.
In terms of where we are today at your office, educate the public about the number of public defenders that we have. There's some people walking the hallway here going by us who are soon will have a bar license, and I'm sure will come and apply to have a job for you. Tell me about that mission, but also making sure that they can take care of their families with a fair wage.
Yeah, so we have approximately 220 lawyers. And they handle about 75,000 cases a year. Right now, for the summer, I have 15 certified legal interns Those are law students who can actually practice law under the supervision of a lawyer. And I have another 25 that are also law students, but they cannot practice law. When I hire individuals as assistant public defenders, their starting salary is $72,000, which, as you know, in Miami-Dade County, it is nearly impossible to be able to exist on that kind of salary. And for several years, we've been fighting to get the salaries increased. I have worked very closely with the state attorney to make sure that our salaries stay commensurate with what our needs are. And for the last few years, we've been trying to get substantial raises. A substantial raise this year would have been $10,000. And initially, what the governor proposed was money for state attorneys, but not for public defenders. So I lobbied in Tallahassee, the Florida Public Defender Association lobbied in Tallahassee, and all the other elected officials were lobbying to try to get the Senate to move it up to also $10,000, not just for prosecutors, but for public defenders. That did not happen. What ended up happening is prosecutors got a $10,000 raise. My attorneys got $3,500 raises. And that wasn't bad enough. The other thing that happened is last year, because as you know, the cost of living in Miami-Dade County.
Of course. My son's a police officer in South Florida, and he's unable, he's a new police officer. He's unable to purchase a home, actually looking to move in other areas of our state.
Yeah, and that's the challenge that a lot of individuals have. So this year, it was terrible that the raise is only $3,500, particularly when the prosecutors right on the other side of the street are making $10,000. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is last year, the legislature proposed a cost area differential, which meant because we live in Miami-Dade County, my attorneys and assistant state attorneys were slated to get $5,000 raises every year, just as a minimum, because the cost of living is so much higher in Miami-Dade County.
That's what we do in the military, by the way. Just so you know, on our housing allowances,
100%.
Depending on where we live,
Yeah.
such as in South Florida, a person stationed at Southcom, where I was, is that housing allowance is significantly higher than someone on the Space Coast or at another location.
Yeah. And so in Miami-Dade County, the reason that we were able to succeed to get the legislature to approve that is because they saw that the federal government does it. They saw that every state agency does it in Miami-Dade County, except for public defender and state attorney. And so last year, legislature approved it. The bill was sent to the governor. The governor vetoed the part of public defenders. So last year, prosecutors got $5,000 raise, that it's in their salary, and my attorneys did not. And then this year, that happened again, an additional $5,000. So you add 5 plus 5 is 10, plus the 10 that they've gotten this year.
Big gap.
It's the gap of $20,000 to $3,500. And there's no good explanation for it other than the legislative process broke down, and it broke down at the end. And instead of them coming up with a number that was equitable, that had parity, public defenders and state attorneys, they came up with $3,500 to $10,000. But in Miami-Dade County, it's $3,500 to $15,000 this year. And that's not right. We're already working with other legislators, with the incoming leadership of the House and Senate. Very important that we're going to work with the Florida Bar, because the Florida Bar represents all of us lawyers. And the Florida Bar has got to take a position that if you are going to fund a criminal legal system, you got to do it in a way that there's parity with all the folks, and it's fair.
1,000%. And I know you will continue this fight going forward. Over the time here, technology has come forward. We've had a lot of seminars about that during the course of our time together here, and I need to say that we want to thank Array for being able to have us broadcast remotely from this location in the legal technology firm. Tell me how you think this technology has impacted people needing legal services and in your world. We all see it, but what does it actually turn into for a client?
So in terms of clients, the good news is this. We've been on the technology forefront now since 2009. And in 2009 was the economic crisis. And the economic crisis meant that my budget got cut my first year as the elected public defender. It got cut 14%, which meant I had to do more with less. So way back then, we were able to get video communications installed in the jails so my attorneys would not have to drive to the jail and spend an hour and a half to 2 hours driving that were not productive hours. So even way back then, that was very helpful to have secure video communications. And over time, we have done, as you know, we now do the digital depositions, which have been phenomenal in us being able to do more with the same amount of money or sometimes with less money. And then the last changes that we've done since COVID has been machine learning and using AI, generative AI, and other forms of AI to be able to take depositions, to be able to have digital files that you can examine, that you can analyze fairly quickly. That you would need, where you would need a paralegal, I would need to hire somebody. I've never gotten money to hire paralegals.
Right.
Now I have paralegals through generative AI technology, through Thomson Reuters. I am able to do not just legal research, but analysis of files, analysis of documents, analysis of video, of transcripts, all sorts of things that just a few years ago I was not able to do. I've been able to amplify what they can do for the client. So the client is getting better service, is getting more comprehensive, is getting it earlier. So taxpayers are also benefiting because people don't have to stay in jail as long waiting for their day in court. And that's one of the challenges that we had forever, which is it takes too long to get the cases to trial. It takes too long to get the cases investigated. With our use and the availability of lots of new technology, we are able to do that a little earlier and a lot better because we can get a lot more work done.
Trial lawyers like the ones in your office?
The advocacy education is really important, particularly early on, either when you're in law school or immediately after graduation, because litigators really need to know not just the rules of evidence, but how to apply the rules of evidence. They need to know what argument can I make that's going to be persuasive. So for that, you have to watch other lawyers. You have to practice to be able to do it. And through technology, I think we'll be in a very different place in a couple of years where we can actually expect to see virtual reality training modules so that individuals can actually interview a client in virtual reality and practice those skills, as well as take a deposition, do a motion hearing, do an argument in court, select a jury. All those things are going to get better, but those are critical for the development of lawyers who can litigate cases. And as you know, litigation does not always result in trials. It results in resolution, in proper resolution of cases. And for that, you got to have the preparation, but you got to have the know-how.
So this piece is going out to an audience of pre-law and law.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about different careers in the law, and I want you to make a hard pitch for them as to why there's no better way to start off your career than in a litigation.
It's like soft. softball.
Public defender's office in Miami-Dade.
For the students that are contemplating having a legal career, one of the best ways of doing that is actually working in a public defender's office, interning as a legal intern in the public defender's office, particularly in an office like my office, where we actually provide training support. In many offices, they cannot do that, and they don't do that. But in my office, we do, and we actively recruit from all the law schools, particularly in the state of Florida. We recruit and we provide ample training. And then the important piece is once we hire you, we actually supervise you. We're not just providing training, we're supervising, we're monitoring and helping you become a better lawyer, a better professional, and also a better human being.
So, what would you say sets a lawyer apart as they start their career from having the kind of experience that they get as a public defender?
So what sets a lawyer apart if they get the experience in a public defender's office is that you can pivot. If you want to go into civil law and you want to practice as a litigator and you've had experience in a public defender's office, not only are you going to be able to practice your skills often, but you're going to get that opportunity to be able to shift. And when you shift, you can go into civil law. You got to learn the substantive area, but you already have the trial skill set, which is really critical, which is what we provide. And look, our success in the public defender's office comes not just from having great litigators internally, but being able to produce great litigators who can help other parts of our community, going into private practice, going into other public service, and doing that kind of work, because it's a reflection on the quality of the work and the quality of the training that we provide.
Mr. Public Defender, always great to see you. Thank you. Keep up your great and fantastic work.
Thank you very much for the work that you do, both in your practice and also with your companies.
Okay, thank you very much,
Great to see
and
you.
the best to you.